We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show where we do take in your questions. So if you have any question you'd like to ask, please send it via the WhatsApp, the email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively, give us a call here in the studio 0203 515 0199. Inshallah, me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah, bikhair.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, Ahkam SOS, back when we started, it was, with His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi. And now, mashallah, we moved forward to all different types of maraja, as, our viewers come from muqallideen of different maraja and so forth. So my first question is actually in regards to the, for the mujtahids and also the maraja of today. What do you think their role is in today's day and age, these jurists? What should they be doing? What do they do for us?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Well, the ulama and the scholars in the fields of fiqh and usul, they are experts in extracting the Islamic rulings from its sources, i.e. the Holy Quran and the Sunnah. And there are two other sources as well. They use the Ijma' and the Aql as well. But mainly the Quran and the Sunnah, which means the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ and his pure family, the holy Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, like Imam Sadiq's narrations and hadith and so forth. So they go back to these sources and extract the rules from those sources, and of course that takes long time. It's not for someone to study 4 or 5 years and be able to extract these rulings. It takes decades and decades, sometimes even 40 years, for the one to become a marja', to be able to lead the ummah in this field. And of course this is something in which we see that in every field, in medicine, in accountancy, in business, you would go back to the experts. So the ahkam and the rules and the sharia and the fiqh and so forth, you have to go back to those who are experts in this field. So you can't give your own fatwa and your own opinions without going back into the in-depth study and research and being able to gain this, what is known as malakatul ijtihad, the ability and the capability of being a mujtahid, being able to understand, derive the ahkam from its sources with extensive research, and being able to issue a fatwa that the muqallid can actually practice upon this.
Excellent. I mean, when we were in the hawza, they'd use the example of the doctor or specialist. If you have something wrong with your stomach or with your you have to go to someone who specializes in that, or if it's the brain or the heart or something, you go to a neurologist or a cardiologist or so forth. Same way, we go to the maraja who are specialists in this field and can give us the correct answer in order for us to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sheikhna, next question I believe comes from one of our viewers, inshallah, and it is it obligatory to follow those scholars with such expertise in jurisprudence and Islamic law?
You see, again, it is an obligatory and wajib for every adult, every baligh, to, if he's not mujtahid, to follow a mujtahid, jami' al-shara'it, who the one has the ijtihad criterias and conditions to follow and refer back to them when they are in need of masail, shar'i masail, and those which we are in need of response ala kulli hal, in prayer, in fasting, in hajj, in daily life, marriage, divorce, and so forth. So you have to go back to those who have the knowledge and expertise in this field.
Shaykh, when we're making taqlid of a mujtahid or a marja and so forth, what are the issues covered in terms of the Sharia law?
The main thing which is covered in the Islamic book of practice and rulings is the worship, ibadat, such as ahkam of the prayers, ahkam of the fasting, ahkam of the hajj, khums, zakat, and so forth. And you have the second category or section is the transactions and contracts, basically. Business transactions, divorce, marriage, and so forth. Rent, hiring, ila akhirih. These are all involved. And these are all based on 5 main ahkam we have. So we have the mandatory or the wajib hukum, such as the daily prayers. We have the haram or the forbidden acts, which is, let's say, alcohol drinking and so forth. We have also the mustahab, desirable acts, namaz, shab, salatul layl. You have the makruh acts, let's say eating with the left hand, for example, which is makruh, for example. Or eating while the one is in state of janaba, makruh. Discouraged act, undesirable act. And you have the fifth is the mubah, which means permissible. You're allowed to drink a cup of water, for example. Mubah. You walk towards the shopping center, for example, to do some shopping. Mubah. Unless you turn the intention to, in terms of, let's say, helping the poor, you want to buy something for the majlis, and then becomes, of course, rewardable. In overall, these are the ahkam in which we have to follow, and again, we have to go back to the experts in this field. And they are the maraja, udul, the just jurists of the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam.
Excellent. Shaykhna, His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim, does he allow his muqallideen to play dominoes? Now, dominoes is a game where you have pieces with numbers on them, and you're supposed to, I think, match the numbers on each side and so forth. Is this, according to Sayyid Sa'id Hakim Hafadullah, is this allowed? Is this permissible in Islam?
The Sayyid mentions that domino is considered to be one of the gambling games. So because it is one of the gambling games, thus it is forbidden to play with it either with betting or without betting, with money or without money. So you have to refrain from playing with this type of games because they are originally made for gambling.
Shaykhna, is it permissible to engage in pleasure-seeking activities with dolls and statues?
No, it is not permissible as precaution, since the arousal of the lust or the temptation between the husband and the wife should be only done by them. So you shouldn't use any other tools or means in order to arouse the lust and temptation. It's either the wife who can actually deal with this issue to satisfy exactly. You can't use the dolls or any other pleasure means that is now in the market available to arouse that.
And tools,
exactly, yeah.
Shaykhna, a question from one of our viewers, I believe, inshallah, will be up on the screen shortly. If there is no alternative for the hospital imaging technician to take images of the private parts of the patient in order that medical analysis can be carried out, are they allowed to do so?
Well, if they can't find, let's say, it's a difficult situation, I know that. Sometimes you have the patient female and the doctor is male and so forth, or the vice versa, and so forth. In such compelling situations, in overall, one should not look with lust. So they can actually deal with the issue, with that private issue, but without looking with lust, because they have to look, and let's say directly or through the screen. If they can avoid looking directly, then they have to look through the screen or through the mirror, for example. That's what the ulama say. The ulama say that if the doctor can actually look through the screen or mirror, that would be, of course, wajib to do so. and to avoid looking directly
I see.
into that position. Otherwise, compared has no choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation. I remember there was a TV program where they had a doctor and people were sending in images, and some of them were indecent as well, very, very private. But, you know, they maintained maturity, and that this was actually to help diagnose people who had actually some serious illnesses and so forth. So, you know, there is a need for it. Sheikhna, why is it mandatory for for us as Muslims to go to war when it comes to jihad and so forth and fight our enemies?
You see, in Islam, when it comes the topic of jihad or struggle or striving and defending your land and faith and your people, basically there are two main reasons for this. Number one is to rescue the oppressed ones. So you defend your land and territory in order to rescue the oppressed individuals, to save the nation from being massacred, for example. So sometimes you have to go forward and defend your land and people. And the second reason, of course, defending the honor of the Muslims, defending your faith, religion, defending basically those values in this as a human being, for example. And the Holy Quran states clearly with this regard in Surah number 4, verse 75, and why don't you fight in the way of Allah and the oppressed? So it's for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal and for the oppressed. It's all to do to bring peacefulness and tranquility and felicity and happiness to the people. Because you have enemies. Even today, you know, we saw what happened, for example, in Iraq and Afghanistan in 2001 up to 3.
Yes.
That they brought an excuse to come and invade those two countries, for example, because they have fear that those two countries might develop some kind of mass destructive weapon or chemical weapons and so forth. With this excuse, they came to those two countries, for example, or there's a terrorism and so forth. So they feel that they have to defend their countries and territories. So they have to send troops and even lose lots of lives were lost in this in these two wars at least. So even today the world would understand this issue, that we have to defend our territory, our values and so forth. Now, be it haq or batil, that's a different issue. So Islam is there to protect the dignity of the people. When you go to war to defend your land, your people, that's what happened with Daesh in Iraq and Syria, the ISIS. And the fatwa came and the Iraqi youth went and defended their land bravely. And we saw that they defeated ISIS at the end of the day. So sometimes you need that to defend yourself. Otherwise, if somebody breaks into your house, would you allow him to harm you or to break?
Obviously not.
Exactly. So you have to somehow defend, even by calling the police, let's say, for example. That's some kind of self-defense, to come and they catch this person and take him to the prison and so forth.
I see. Thank you, Sheikh. I'm going to go to a short break. Inshallah, join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show. We do take in your questions. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp number, the email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively give us a call here in the studio 0203 515 0199. Inshallah, we'll be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, I'm sure you are aware of a certain film in regards to, say, the Fatima Zahra Salaam alayha, that it has been produced. There's been trailers and so forth in regards to this film and so forth. And we see, some of the images and pictures, facial features of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Imam Ali, so forth. In His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, what does he say in regards to drawing images and maybe having these scenes, these film scenes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, of the A'immah and holy personalities? What does he say? What's his stance on that?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Eminence mentions, I can actually read the fatwa with this regard. He says if due respect is observed and the scene does not contain anything that would detract from their holy pictures in the minds of the viewers, then there's no problem. In other words, if it doesn't show the image in a way that draws away the respect, then that's fine. So yes, if you show the right image in the right form, that should be fine. There's no issue with it.
I see.
Yeah.
Sheikh, my next question is in regards to the whole mixed gathering, mahram, non-mahram. I mean, it happens a lot where, you know, families meet together. So if we have a sister who is, you know, with her in-laws, is she allowed to sit at the dinner table with her in-laws, you know, her father-in-law, mother-in-law? Maybe, you know, her husband's brothers are there and so forth. What is the Islamic ruling in regards to, you know, sitting at the table, especially when it's with your in-laws and his family?
You see, in overall, it is permissible. But the thing is, the one should avoid committing any haram in that gathering. On the banquet, on the sufra, you shouldn't be looking at the others, you know, the opposite gender, with lust and so forth, or even cracking jokes and laughter and so forth that would cause banter and causes, as it says in the hadith, mufakaha, you know, banter by cracking the jokes, making the others to laugh, and then, you know, things might happen as well as a result. So if you avoid all these haram, that's fine. It's just a basically dinner table, you know, all the family are sitting, they eat and they just eat, or they just sit separately, for example, afterwards. Men with men, women with women.
That normally happens like that. You know, I know back home in Pakistan, normally the men will sit separate to the ladies and so forth. When it comes to sufra and stuff, you know, ladies and children will probably eat first and then the men will eat later, or vice versa and things like that. So there is normally, you know, parda, as we say in our language. Sheikh, now we have a question, I believe, that's coming from one of our viewers. Is it permissible for a man to take the measurements of the body of a woman for the purpose of dressmaking or for making jewelry for the hand or foot? So, you know, the tailor has to obviously take measurements, sometimes of a, you know, a female. Is this like, you know, acceptable? Is this okay?
Well, the fatwa is it is not permissible. Since the male comes in contact with the female by touching if she's wearing, let's say, you know, proper clothes, but still he has to touch for the size, for example, or even being near to this woman and trying to take sizes, it's a problematic issue. It's a mushkila. So, in addition to that, this might cause the arousal of lust and temptation and so forth. So the one should avoid. I mean, you can have the same gender. You can have a lady,
female assistant to help.
Exactly, yeah. The lady can take the measurements from the ladies and the men. This is common sense. There's actually, let me mention this hadith. One of the Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam's or Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam's student, he came to the Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. He says that كنت أقرأ امرأة كنت أعلمها القرآن. He said the man was actually blind, so a female student came to him to learn the Quranic recitation. So he used to teach this woman. So he said that once upon a day, مازحتها بشيء. I cracked a joke with this non-mahram woman. So he said, I went to see the Imam Baqir alayhi salam afterwards. The Imam, when he saw me, he said to me straight away, أي شيء قلت للمرأة. What did you say to that woman? You cracked a joke with her. You made her to laugh, for example. This man said, فغطيت وجهي. I covered my face as being ashamed from Imam Baqir alayhi salam that I committed this sin and the Imam knew about it. So we have to be careful as well that in our private, when we commit sins, we have to know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is watching. The Imam of our time is watching. Salamullah alayhi. Allah is watching. فقال, the Imam alayhi salam replied, لا تعودن إليها. Don't go back to this act, this sinful act. It's just a crack joke. It's nothing. But that would causes banter and so forth.
Okay. Shaykhna, we have a question from one of our viewers, inshallah, on the telephone. Inshallah, we can get through to them. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Okay, some technical difficulties there. Inshallah, we'll be able to get back through to the viewer. Inshallah, if you can call back, we'll be more than happy to discuss and answer your question, inshallah. Shaykhna, according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Ishaq al-Fiyad, is it okay to do the ruku dhikr in sujood and to do the sujood dhikr in ruku? Sometimes we do, by accident, we say the wrong Subhana Rabbi al-Azim in sujood or Subhana Rabbi al-Ala in ruku. According to His Eminence, is it okay, or is Salah batil and we have to repeat the Salah?
Well, His Eminence mentions that it is not permissible to replace the dhikr of ruku' with sujood and sujood with ruku'. So you can't say in the ruku' Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih, and you can't say in sujood, prostration, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim wa bihamdih. So you can't replace them. No, you can't.
I see. Shaykhna, I believe we have the phone call back on. Inshallah, we'll be able to speak to our viewer. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you doing there? Your question, please, for the Sheikh.
I wanted to ask, it's my home here, but my money's in my investment portfolio, so it's not in my bank.
Okay.
And the value is increasing day by day. How do I calculate the cost with it? Do I just calculate by today's rate, or?
You want to calculate the khums on it?
Yeah, but I don't know. Do I even have to pay khums on it because the value keeps getting added on?
Okay.
And it's not in my hands. The money isn't in my hands.
I see. And how long have you had the money for so far?
It's been like 7 months right now.
7 months. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shaykhna, viewer here has had some investment, 7 months, and obviously the money keeps increasing and so forth. Khums, is it to be paid on, obviously it's to be paid on the surplus, but is it on what day would he do it on? Is it on the value he initially puts in? Is it the new value? How does it work in this situation?
Basically, he needs to have a date, the end of the year date. It's like the taxation end of year date, khums date annually to calculate anything excess in his income. Anything left over after spending for the past 12 months. Whatever is left on that day, let's say the 1st of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, the 1st of Muharram, for example, the 1st of Rabi'ul Awwal. That's the day of his khumus. He needs to see how much he is left with. 10 pounds, he pays 2 pounds.
Yes.
20%. Khums. 100 pounds, he pays
20
pounds. And so forth. So whatever is left over, وَمَا غَنِمْتُمْ, what is you have gained and left over from the past 12 months, you pay the khumus on that extra money left in your bank account, in your hands. I don't know, you got something at the end of the day as a value of money or cash that you have to pay khumus on. If not, there's no days, then you have to speak to your marji' to do a settlement, musalaha, and to set a date, and you start paying khumus inshallah from a new.
Shaykhna, when it comes to Salah and Jama'ah Salah, if one wants to leave the Jama'ah, doesn't want to pray with the Jama'ah, but later on changes his mind, wants to join the Jama'ah, can he do so?
You see, if you are in the Jama'ah and you want to actually leave the Jama'ah to be farada and to pray by yourself, that's fine. You can make the intention and leave the Jama'ah and pray by yourself. But when you made this intention, you can't go back to join the Jama'ah. You made this intention and you started your farada prayer, you can't go back. Unless you were in doubt. Am I leaving? Am I going to leave, or am I going to stay with the Jama'ah? Then that's fine, you can stay. The salah is valid.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Shaykhna, a question from one of our viewers, which is it permissible to read books that cause the thought of a Muslim to deviate from his religion, and those false thoughts may reside in his mind as the truth?
Well, it is not permissible unless you are a scholar, you're an alim, you know the inside out of these ideologies and doctrines and beliefs, so you can respond, or at least you can grasp and understand that how Islam can respond to these allegations or devious thoughts and so forth. So you have to be in a position that you can actually be able to respond, or to be able to be away from the influence of these deviated thoughts.
I see. Excellent. Shaykhna, another question I believe from one of our viewers. If I see some of the blessings such as bread or a date on the ground being stepped upon, am I obliged to remove them? And will it be a sin if I ignore it?
You see, it depends. Initially it's wajib, of course, mandatory to remove these blessings of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the rice on the floor, the bread. But all depends on the urf or the custom of that country or place. That is it disrespectful because of being in this country? Let's say it's in Karbala, for example. They would consider as disrespectful if you throw bread on the floor. They would pick it up and kiss it and throw it in the corner. So it depends on the country. Sometimes it becomes mustahab, sometimes wajib. It depends really. I mean, in Europe, for example, usually when you throw something, there are pigeons and birds around. They would come and eat it straight away, for example. So it depends on the country and the place you live in.
Fair enough. Sheikh, I believe we have another question from one of our viewers, inshallah. The hat trick, 3 in a row. We have a Christian dressmaker at home. Is it permissible to deal with her as tahir in relation to food and drink, or should her utensils be kept separate?
You see, in overall, you can deal with the Christian worker or staff, bring it at home to do the work and so forth. But as a precaution, you have to avoid the moisture and the wetness of this worker. Let's say when they want to drink a cup of water, for example, or coffee, that you have to wash it afterwards because of impurity. Other ulama, some ulama would mention that no, they are tahir, the Christian, the Ahl Kitab, they are tahir, they're pure. You can drink it with them, the tea, coffee, water. You don't have to wash that. A cup of tea, for example, if it's for the najasa and so forth. So it depends who you follow. If you follow those sets of ulama who would mention that Ahl Kitab are tahir and pure, then there's no worry about this issue. You can join them and that's fine. But if you follow alim or those who say that Ahl Kitab are najis and impure, then you have to, as a precaution, avoid the wetness and the moisture when there's a cross-contamination with the cups and utensils and so forth.
Understandable. Shaykhna, here in London, we have many street artists. There's people who do graffiti, there's people who draw on the pavements, there's those who actually do portraits of people. They sit down there and people come one by one, they sit and they draw like a caricature, or they'll draw a portrait of this person. According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, if a sister who is wearing hijab, is she allowed to partake, have her picture drawn, where she'll be sitting there, and obviously the artist will be looking extra detail and so forth in order to draw this portrait. Is this Islamically okay and acceptable?
Well, the Sayyid mentions that she shouldn't do so. So it's better for the sisters in faith to avoid such places. Myself, for example, a promotion about Islam, some kind of an Islam, they wanted to present an open-minded or open-world Islam. And it was actually a piece of music with dance. So the Muslim brother with his beard, he was dancing. And they also showed a sister with her full hijab, and she was shaking her body. Just to show that Islam is actually a religion of openness. Okay, liberal. Although the dancing is haram, especially the music is well played. Yes, songs is played. So we try to advise our sisters that to avoid such acts and being in that position of being exposed to others, for example. Of course, you have the hijab, you have everything, which is great. But it's better, as the Sayyid mentions, that you should avoid such places. Yes, if there was, let's say, a female artist, and that's fine. A female draws the picture of a another female, for example, that's fine. But when it's a male, that's the issue. And he's looking closely to the lips, the eyes, and so forth. So that's a bit
problematic. Indeed. Shaykh, thank you very much for your efforts and for your research. And thank you to all the viewers for joining us on Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, we'll be back with another live show here on Imam Hussein TV 3 on Wednesday night. If you have a question you'd like to ask, now the question can be on any topic. There's no topic that's too silly or too taboo. I mean, we do our best to, find out your answers. If you are, doing taqleed of a particular marja, we do have, mashallah, access to the different offices, the official representatives and so forth. We can get you your answer from a particular marja if you ask to do so. So inshallah, please send in your questions via the WhatsApp, the email address, or give us a call next time here on Ahkam SOS, Wednesday, live on Imam Hussein TV 3. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.